Action. Okay, I'll call this meeting of the Durham Board of Selectmen to order. It is October 17th. And let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Let's see. Ruth put a few amendments to the agenda on prior to the meeting, 7F, G, H, and 8A. Does everybody have those? And are there any other amendments to the agenda? No. Okay. All right. So, public comment. Anybody here for the public comment portion? I think everybody that's in the room now is on the agenda already. But okay, pass over that. Consent agenda. I'd entertain a motion there, please.
I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay. All right. All in favor? Okay. Action and discussion items. John Carroll of CMP is here to talk to us about the New England Maine Energy Connect. Would you come right on up to the table so we can pick you up on the mic?
All right. I've got a drawing here that I'll put down. That'll help a little bit for some reference. But I can put it right side up.
That'd be even better. Yeah.
Yeah. just those are geography tests. Unless you want to have me set it here so people can see it.
Yeah, if you want to put it up like kind of against the wall by that black phone, I think that'd be good.
All right. Well, I want to start by just saying thank you for the opportunity. My name's John Carroll. I do corporate communications for CMP and Avangrid. And just want to sort of make 2 points. One, I'm here to inform you about a project we're working on that we think is beneficial for Maine and for the community. And then secondly, to ask for your help on it at some point. So there's an ask coming. It's an easy one.
Thanks for the warning.
I don't want to surprise you. All right. So the issue that we're facing is just a little bit of background. Maine is part of a New England grid. So when we talk about improving the regional grid, we're all part of the same high bulk power grid from Maine to Connecticut, and we're also part of the same energy market. So what happens in energy prices in Massachusetts happens in Maine, Vermont, or whatever. So when we have common problems or opportunities in one state, everybody has them. So as Mainers, we do have a common challenge with the rest of the New England states, and that is that over the past 10 or 15 years, the diversity of our energy supply has shrunk down to fewer and fewer sources. And concentrating particularly in natural gas. In years past, we had more coal and oil plants and nuclear plants. But today, if you look on the ISO website, which is that's the manager for the regional grid, at any given day, at any given hour, there's a pie chart that can show you exactly where New England's energy is coming from. Most days it's going to be between 55 and 60, or a little more than that. 60% is natural gas. About 30% is going to be nuclear, and then the balance is hydro, renewables, biomass, and such. So the problem that represents is that we are more and more dependent on fewer and fewer types of fuel. Nuclear is going through a slow phase out, and those plants are going away, and probably the dominant fuel today and in the future appears to be natural gas, which is cleaner than some of the oil and coal plants that it replaced, and right now is relatively inexpensive, but the prices are it's subject to volatility, especially in cold weather. Natural gas in cold weather is very constrained in New England. When you need it for heating and you need it for power plants, the price goes up and it drives up the price of electricity. If you think back a couple years ago during the polar vortex, prices for electricity on the day and day and hourly markets were sky high. So we have a problem of too much dependence on too few types of resources. They're also carbon-based primarily resources, and we're subject to shortages or occasional scarcity that drives up price. So the question is, how do we change the mix? And Massachusetts, about a year ago, took a very bold step, and said that they were going to direct their utilities to go out with a request for proposal for a large injection of clean energy into the New England grid for the Massachusetts utility customers. To give you a sense of the scale, it's a 1,200 megawatt line they want in terms of capacity, but they want to buy 9.45 terawatt hours of electricity per year. And to put that in context, that's about 10% of all the electricity produced in New England in 2016. So they are going out and saying, we want to buy 10% of the, we want to inject 10% of new electricity into the New England grid on an annual basis, and it has to be green. They, in March, issued a request for proposals, and it went across the region, and companies were invited to submit responses. They got 46 responses from sort of west to east, from New Brunswick, from northern Maine, from central Maine, from Quebec, New Hampshire, Vermont, New York, and even some offshore Massachusetts. So they got 46 proposals. CMP submitted five of those 46. And we are waiting to hear what the decision will be sometime in January 2018. January 25th is actually the day. The reason that we submitted is that we had been looking for a period of time at the problems we have with the nature of our fuel mix. We are only a T&D company. We don't make energy policy. We don't make energy, but we deliver it. But we had been looking at what New England was going to need and thinking about the opportunities for the future and thinking what solutions we could provide. So over the past 3 or 4 years, we've been looking at Quebec, recognizing that we've, for a very long time, been tied to the Canadian grid through New Brunswick. That's been there for years. But there's been no link between us and Quebec in Maine. We then went out and quietly acquired a corridor. It's very difficult to buy, greenfield corridor, but because of the nature of Western Maine, we were able to buy a 50-mile corridor from up near the Wyman Dam, actually near the Forks, all the way to the Canadian border in the Beatty Township. It's a working forest area, so we dealt with basically 4 landowners. And we bought 50 miles of corridor from 4 landowners who are running logging operations. They understand what we want the corridor for. It's not incompatible. They said, "We're going to cut down trees." That's what we do all day, So we established a 50-mile corridor from our existing system out to the Canadian border. It was not long after that we had finished that the RFP came out. So what we put in 2 different types of proposals. They both have the exact same effect here in Pownell, but I'll describe them briefly. Durham, I'm sorry. Yeah, I've been going around a lot in Durham. But they have the same basic effect here, but I'll describe them briefly. One project we call the Maine Clean Power Connection would establish a 345,000 volt AC substation, and this is that particular project, but all the same corridor. So we would build a substation up here in far northern Franklin County. And then we offered, with different generation partners, 3 different levels of generation. A smaller wind project that would be built up in far northern Franklin County, a combination that would include wind and solar and storage, which would include some of the old over the horizon radar site in Moscow, and then a third larger offering that would include wind from Quebec, Canadian wind. So this would be an AC, alternating current line, starting from just inside the Canadian border, across through our new corridor. We would pick up our existing corridor right by Moxie Pond. That's a corridor that Walter Wyman bought in the 1930s when he was developing power up in the Kennebec River. and then it would come down through the towns all the way to what we call Larrabee Substation in Lewiston. So that line would come to Lewiston, and that would be a 345,000 volt line, and it would stop at our substation in Lewiston. That's all an AC project. It's all within the U.S. Our energy partners on the other side are NextEra, and there's also a Canadian wind company, and it would be primarily U.S. energy. That is one offering, and when you looked at if you look at the RFP in Canada, it's not exactly clear. It looks like it was written by a committee. So, in some sense, it looks like they would like to have wind or solar, which has certain, obviously environmental qualities. The other aspect of it is that it's not dispatchable. It's not firm. So obviously, if the wind's not blowing, if the sun's not shining, it's not available. But it is an offer to them. The second project we call the New England Clean Energy Connect, and that is different in two primary respects. That would be a DC line that would run, again, from Lewiston up through the exact same corridor, right to the Quebec border, and it would meet a DC line from Hydro-Quebec. And that would offer two different blends, or two different offers. One would be Hydro-Quebec would give 100% hydro energy into the line, or a second offer in which it would be primarily hydro complemented with a smaller portion of wind. But either way, it would be a firm delivery in terms of it's just like having a natural gas plant. When you need it, it's there. We think that really fits well with what Massachusetts wants, because their primary concern is the volatility of natural gas and scarcity, especially in winter or in times of peak demand. So there's a lot of discussion in the RFP about meeting, our energy needs at these critical times when gas becomes scarce. And that's where a DC line to Canada really provides, exactly what they're looking for. So that project, in both cases though, that project includes work beyond that single line. That's about a 145-mile line. And in both cases, it would involve rebuilding two transmission lines that come through your town. There's a 345,000 volt line that was built fairly recently under the Maine Power Reliability Program, and then there are two smaller lines just to the east of it. Those are what we call Section 62 and 64, and those lines would simply be taken out and replaced with 115 lines, the same voltage, but with single poles. The purpose of the work is based on system studies. They would not be adequate to manage the load in the event of a failure of some other component on our system once we plug in this new supply. So it's simply uprating basically those lines. But the most efficient way to do it is to take them out and build new. So it doesn't call for expanding the corridor. It doesn't call for adding new lines in the town. It simply means we would take out the H-frames and build a new line in its place. Most likely we would build one, take the old one out of service, build a new one, take the second one out of service. It's about 5 miles of line in your town. So what's in it for Maine? Because that's important, because obviously it has an impact in all of these communities. There's sort of 5 different benefits that affect Maine and also the region. Probably the most important one is that when you inject that amount, 1,200 megawatts of capacity into the New England grid, and that amount of clean energy into the New England grid is going to suppress prices in the future, because it's going to be knocking natural gas, primarily natural gas, out of the bidding for gas supply for the next 20 years. It's a 20-year contract. What that means is that future prices will be lower than they would be absent this project being built. And then for New England, on a New England basis, it's about $3.9 billion over the 20 years of the contract. Since we're part of the New England market, the same price suppression happens in Maine, and the effect for Maine consumers is about $45 million a year for the next 20 years. Those are in future lower prices. It doesn't mean your bill goes down. It just means that energy charge will be that much lower going into the future. Secondly, for Maine, is because it's going to be, the construction's entirely in Maine for our project, it will be jobs. We would look to start the project probably in late 2019 and finish in 2022. It's about a 4 to 5 year construction period. Average construction each year is about 1,700 jobs. They're not necessarily new jobs, but they would, like any contractor, every job is a new job. During the peak, the project will peak. That'll be almost 3,300 or 3,400 jobs during the peak year, and primarily it's going to be in Androscoggin, Somerset, and Franklin counties. We do have a piece of the work will be over in the eastern part of our system, a 26-mile line from Windsor to Wiscasset. But other than that, all the construction is essentially in this part of the state. So there's long-term energy price savings. There's short-term jobs, 4 to 5 years. The added investment, obviously, the towns will tax, and our estimate, sort of rough estimate, is it's about $18 million a year in new tax revenue for the host communities, and you're one of them. So if you look at the corridor you have today, it's about 5 miles. It will be new plant in that, so it'll raise the value there. It will make our system more reliable. When you make this kind of investment and create more redundancy in the system, Maine's and the region's grid is more reliable. And then fundamentally, we'll have cleaner air. We're in the same market, we're in the same grid, and we're breathing the same air. So Maine gets a lot out of it. And what we put into it is the community impact of the footprint. And then after that, we don't pay it. There's no cost to Maine ratepayers. This is a contract that the New England utilities would sign for their customers. We're not taking advantage of anybody. This is a decision that they want to buy this energy. They've gone out, and through a very competitive process, they have all of these offers to choose from.
This is the Massachusetts.
This is Massachusetts consumers.
So is this like almost analogous to a water rights issue where you've got all the power coming through that line is like owned by Massachusetts?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. They're buying it.
Yeah.
But the reality is, no matter what, when you put energy onto the grid, it's there for everybody. It's not like it leaves Maine. It just energizes the regional grid, and those consumers buy it. And there's a chance they'll select nobody if they get sticker shock or nothing seems to work for them. In which case this project wouldn't be built, and if we're not selected, it wouldn't be built. But if they choose any project, and hopefully it's ours, they're accepting the costs. So we're not taking advantage of anyone. This is what they wanted to buy, and they would buy it. But for Maine, it has no cost.
So this only happens if they select your.
That's right. That's right. So the selection, as I mentioned, is in January. Our project is further behind than some of the competitors. Some of the projects, if you ever follow the industry, and I can understand if you don't, but there's a project called Northern Pass that's trying to go through the White Mountains. They've been trying to permit that for 7 years. They're not there. Frankly, I think people are betting whether they'll make it or not. There's a company called TDI that is building a line all the way down. A submarine cable would go under Lake Champlain all the way down into southern Vermont and New Hampshire, and then swing across under roads to tie into the New England grid. And that project is fully permitted, and they actually even have contractors ready to sign. They just need to find someone to buy the power. So we're behind, and as the evaluation committees look at the projects, there is a timeline. They want people to be able to deliver by 2022. So we've continued to move the project ahead. Since July, we held a series of public meetings, which were required before we made our filings to the state DEP. We did those. We've had public informational meetings in Windsor, in Lewiston, and up in Bingham. We have now filed all of our state permits to the DEP. We have filed all of our permits to the Army Corps. We have filed for what's called a Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity with the Public Utilities Commission in Maine. We filed for presidential permit because it goes internationally across the border. So at this point, we have filed all of our state and federal permits. And actually, just Friday, we got a welcome letter from the DEP saying that they had accepted our application as complete for processing, which is a threshold for us. They started a 185-day clock. So we're looking at most likely wrapping up our permitting, assuming the project goes ahead, by mid-2018, late 2018, early 2019. So we're doing everything we can to demonstrate that this is a viable project. And as we look at the criteria, it really comes down in our mind to three different things that these selection committees will look at. First is price. They're representing all of their consumers, and they have to deliver a reasonable price. We know what our project costs. We've not shared that with anyone because we're not sure. But at the end of the process, if there comes down a last and best offer, we know what we've bid, and a lot of our competitors don't. Certainly, the numbers are all visible to the judges, but we haven't shared that number. But what we do know is the Northern Pass project is $1.6 billion. The TDI project is about $1.6 to $1.8 billion. A submarine cable from New Brunswick to Boston is $2 billion. And we know that our number is hundreds of millions of dollars less than any of those. And it's because it's a shorter line. We're building in our corridor. We're building in places that we know we can get the project built. We're also using the purchasing power of our parent companies, Avangrid in the US and Iberdrola globally, to source some of the components. So we know that we are going to really crush it on price. Secondly, they want to know it's a viable project or not, because there are frankly projects that are not much more than a line on a napkin. People don't have the corridor rights, they don't have the wherewithal to get it built, they can't get it permitted. Our project, we believe, is eminently buildable and permittable, permittable especially is a bad word, but it's the one we have to use. We know where we're building in our backyard. We know the regulation, we know the process. We've selected a route that uses either existing corridor or a new greenfield in an area that we believe is going to be easy to build. So we can point to this and say, this is a project that we can build, get approved and built. And then the third thing they want to know is, can the company do it? Some of the competitors are people that have never built a project at all, never operated a utility, never built a project. We just built the Maine Power Reliability Program, which came through town here. That was a $1.4 billion project. That was a much more complex project. We finished it on time and under budget. We're the only competitor in this that can say that we have completed a project of that scale and complexity on time and on budget in New England. So when they look at us, they're going to recognize that we have technical expertise, we have the resources, we have the immediate, verifiable, tangible experience to prove it. So we think we have a really strong chance. What we're doing now, apart from meeting with boards like this, so that if you hear questions from neighbors, because we've notified the neighbors, I want you to know what we're doing and why. And then secondly, we're asking towns to offer a letter of support or provide a letter of support. Our job now is to have people in Massachusetts learn more about our company and about our project generally, just increase the awareness of it, and then also demonstrate to the evaluation committees that we are making progress and that we're going to be able to catch up and surpass any of the projects that seemingly are further ahead. So we've met with a lot of communities, host communities. They've provided letters. I don't know, we've got at least a dozen letters now from Wiscasset and Alna and Bingham and Moscow, and I won't get them all right.
Right.
But and it's just a brief letter saying CMP has been a long time service provider. CMP's been a good neighbor. We've experienced a project done by CMP, and we would welcome a project of this nature as good for Maine and good for our community if it could be built. We could provide a draft letter for you, email a draft letter that you could then mark up, and so that's my ask. And if you need to discuss it or whatever, that's fine. This would not, obviously, in any way shortchange or any. There's no commitment. Obviously we'd have to go through the normal permitting process, And I, at this point, I don't know exactly what the permit process would be at the local level here in Wyndham. So it wouldn't commit you to anything. It wouldn't mean that we could run off and build a project without coming back and meeting all your ordinances. But that's something that we want to demonstrate to Massachusetts, that Maine would welcome this project. They see the benefits, see the local benefits, understand the community impact, and would consider it still a good thing for your town and for the state. So that's our ask, and I would love to answer questions if you...
Well, it wasn't like you asked for $100,000 tonight.
Yeah, right.
Well, actually, there were two things. Yeah.
Yeah, right, yeah. So,
No.
Rich, did you have any questions?
No, not really. No. No.
Okay. What?
No, I'm good at this time. I've tried to take it all in. I'll have to let it roll through the computer I got.
Yeah.
Mhm.
A few gigabytes that are up in there.
Just one thing I'd add, because one of the objections that we have run into is there are parts of Maine, people in Maine that don't embrace wind construction. They don't want to see wind. Where we're building up in Bingham, we had a lot of folks come from the Moosehead Lake area. There's a lot of strong resistance to having wind built on the ridge, the Somerset Wind Project up there. There is a project NRG owns, they're now the owner of it. They put in their own proposal into the RFP as one of the proposals, although they then said they would connect into our grid if we built our line, the MCPC, but they're not part of our bid. We looked at that project, frankly didn't want them as a partner because of that. The wind that we're proposing, or that Nextera would propose, is right up against the Canadian border, and in a very remote part of the state, and we think it's less problematic from a public response perspective. And to give an example of how remote that area is, from the time we cross the border, we don't cross a public road until we hit 201, just west of the Forks, and that's 40 miles from the border. So,
Are you counting the major paper company roads as?
no, those are private roads.
Okay,
So the
right.
first public road is 40 miles from the border. So that, the area where the wind is very remote.
So can you orient me a little bit
Yeah.
on where that is? I mean, like in reference to like, Allagash and St. John River and stuff like that? Or-
Oh, yeah, sure, that's quite a ways up here.
Okay.
Let's see, Baxter's probably in here, the Moosehead Lake area is in this area.
Okay,
Rangeley is right about here. Let's see, this is Jackman. Jackman Crossing is north of this. So 201 comes up through Moscow and out to Jackman right about up here. So
Okay.
it's south of Jackman. And Coburn Gore is, I think, this little number right there.
okay, that's, all right.
Sir, outside of the wind opposition
Yeah.
that you're, as far as the impact on our community, there's a ton of pros. Is there any cons? What would people be upset about by having this? What would be the con?
Good question. One couple things come to mind. One thing in particular is that the structures that are out there today are what we call H-frames. So the conductors are horizontal. There's two verticals with a horizontal, and the conductors are strung horizontally. In order to create more room in the corridor and to work in that corridor, because it's getting congested, we're going to use monopoles. So there'll be single poles, so that the conductors are going to be, the lower conductor will be on one side, and then the next conductor going up, and then the one above that. So while those structures are probably in the range of 45 to 55 feet, these monopoles will be in the 75 to 80 foot range. So to the extent that if you can't see, if it's below the tree line today, but just below it from some particular viewpoint, there's going to be an extra 25 or 30 feet of height. So there's an objection someone might have.
Is it the entire corridor in Durham or just portions of it?
It's the whole corridor.
Whole corridor,
Yeah.
so that goes from, goes all the way, ends up going through Brunswick.
Brunswick.
Well,
No, it's 5 miles through Durham, so it crosses by the end of Bowen Road, Bowie Hill Road,
yeah,
Bowie Hill
that's
Extension,
across from me.
Stackpole Road,
That's right.
yeah, Stackpole Road, and then across the Auburn Pownell Road. So it's that
Oh,
corridor down the west
so
side.
there's another quarter that comes, that like from Brunswick
Yes.
across and probably meets that. We're not talking about that one.
No, this runs north-south on the west side of town.
Okay.
When you go to a stronger field like that, like his area is pretty residential area, is there I know it's cleaner energy, is there more EMFs? Is there anything from an environmental standpoint from the people on the ground, per se?
There shouldn't be. EMF is a question that comes up. For the reason we have to rebuild these lines is so that in the event, because when you inject a large amount, this is like building a natural gas plant in Lewiston. I mean, this is like building a 1,200 megawatt plant right in Lewiston. The effect is that's where it's injected into the system. When you make that kind of addition into any transmission system, the bulk system, you have to study what would happen to the whole grid if any other component broke down. So, for instance, there's a line, the line that we built through town here, the 345 volt line, under normal operation, that will flow on that line. You have to model and say, what would happen if that line failed? If that line failed, then the electricity is going to find its way around through everything else that's there. So it would drop down to the 115 part of our system, the 115,000 volt, and then it would run down through those two sections that we want to rebuild. In that event, they would have a higher load on them, so that would change the EMF levels. But that's only in the event of a major failure on another component, and it would be for the period of time that component is failed.
So the only time the EMF levels are affected is during failure? There's no increase in EMFs by adding this massive...
On the period of time when those at 115s would be low, the 115 load would increase when they were under failure.
Okay.
The load on the 345, there'll be times when there's more load on that, so theoretically, the EMF would be higher on that.
Well, that's my concern.
Yeah, we
We're
haven't
talking about a
studied
lot
that
of power here to say that
Yeah.
there's going to be no more further EMFs generated seems a little, I would think you guys would know that, no?
Well, we haven't done the studies yet. Those studies are in process now.
Irregardless of studies, I mean, you're juicing that much more power, don't you think? It's just to assume, I mean, I'm kind of ignorant to this, that it would generate more EMFs, or am I crazy on that?
It would depend on where the load is coming from today, okay? Because the load that flows through there today may be coming down from New Brunswick.
Sure.
Already on the grid, and so the load is going to be the same. Now it's simply coming from a different source.
Sure.
So until we study it, I don't really want to say.
Would that study
certain-
be part of the process before approvals are given?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
All right,
that study
great.
will go
All right,
to the.
I think that
to the
answers my
PUC.
question then.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I've heard these windmills, the wind power, I've never been by one, but I have some friends of mine that been up north, Somerville, and particularly it's right underneath them. And they say you can't even talk to each other because you can't hear. So how much noise will that put out, these new ones?
Mhm.
Is it gonna be the same idea as that?
I'm not a wind farm developer. I mean, part of our company does develop them. That's definitely, when you site them, one of the considerations, just in terms of where they are in relation to other uses, other homes. They look for remote places. So I suspect that if you're near those turbines when they're running, you'd hear them. I don't know. Those wind farms will have to go through their own a separate siting process, and the state obviously has its standards. I wouldn't say you're not going to hear them, but I don't know who's out there to hear them, and I don't know how far away they are. But that's for the main clean power connection. Obviously, that's the AC project. With the DC project, there's no wind associated with it.
Well, I wouldn't hear it at my house anyways, but.
Yeah, no, I think
You heard it at your house.
there'd be a lot more problem. If you could hear them from there, everybody would have a problem.
If a wind turbine falls in the woods and there's nobody there.
But from this other line that comes through, you're not gonna be, people ain't gonna be calling us saying, what's that loud buzzing, something that they're picking up in the middle of the night
No,
on a regular
well,
basis or something like that.
most of there's a 345 line, and most of the time, if you go out in that corridor, if you're going to hear a line making any noise, it's a 345. And if anybody's been out there, you hear that buzz.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
depending on the humidity, if it's really moist or misty, you hear a crackling and a
yeah.
buzz. The 345 lines are the only ones you usually are most likely to hear. A 115 line, the other two that we're replacing, in some rare instances, you might hear a little bit of it, but we don't, with all of our neighbors and all of our miles, the only time people talk about hearing a power line, it's a 345. So that's already there. This is
Right.
not, these
And
lines.
I've heard that, it's not huge, but it's just a little small buzz.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, and by the time if the wind is blowing, you don't hear
Yeah.
it, by the time you get much beyond the edge of the corridor, you don't hear it. And if the air's very dry, you won't hear it. But these are existing lines, so we're just replacing them, so it's not likely to be a new source
Right.
of noise.
Okay. I might suggest, see how the other board members feel, that to have you go ahead and send our town administrator a couple of the sample letters or whatever.
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
maybe Ruth could draft something up and we could review it as a full board, not at our next meeting because it's the abbreviated
Right.
one, but
Yeah.
one after that.
Sure.
And then we can talk about if we want to sign the letter, and if we did, we'd have one ready to roll. So.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'll send you from some of the other towns so you can see what other
Yeah.
towns have
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
Because what we will do is, as we periodically refresh our filing, we would just attach it to the new filing and say, here are the three things that have happened since we last updated you, and here are letters from, the Chamber of Commerce in 3 different towns that have since offered their support for the project.
Yep. Outside of the noise folks, have you had any other further opposition from towns? Or
Not
most
from,
people supported your project?
most of the towns have been very supportive. There's one part of the project that we have sort of one area where we have a series of sort of environmental concerns that we have to work our way through, and that's actually up around the Forks. There's sort of this 20-mile stretch that we cross the Appalachian Trail, and anytime you cross the Appalachian Trail, there's a concern.
Sure.
But we're actually using an existing corridor next to an existing line, so.
So you're already crossing the trail at that
Yeah,
point.
yeah, that doesn't matter, we'll still have to address, yeah. And then from there, you go north along Moxie Pond.
Sure.
Now, you're in an existing corridor, you're building next to an existing line, but we consider that a sensitive area, the view from the pond back to the corridor, and if the poles are taller, how much taller, can we keep them below the tree line? Then from there, you cross the Moxie Stream, which, this is not near Moxie Falls, it's above the falls, but it's a beautiful wild stream. And then we have to cross over the Kennebec Gorge, or under Kennebec Gorge. We're trying to figure out how to do that. And then we go out and wrap around the shoulder of Coburn Mountain, which is popular with snowmobilers. So that's about a 20-mile stretch from Coburn Mountain to the AT. And we're working with rafters, and we're working with members of the community to say, what are the things that we can do to mitigate, to avoid the impact, and then to the extent there's an impact, what can we do to mitigate it? But we are looking at going under the Kennebec River, which would be a very expensive proposition, but the rafters feel really strongly about the river and the view, and they're concerned about having a set of power lines go over it. So that's the area that more than anything we're trying to really scratch our heads and find things to address. Invariably, when we start a project like this, we're going to find a neighbor who some parts of the corridor we have to do additional clearing. We actually own all the land. And when we go and start clearing corridors, sometimes we find people weren't sure where the boundary is, and we find a swing set or a garden, or hopefully, hopefully it's not a garage or a house, it happens. So we'll bump up against individuals along the way. I hope, and for the most part, they're encroaching into our corridor in every case. But we work around that and usually resolve those. But
Okay. So I actually have one more technical question
Sure.
for you. I'll demonstrate my ignorance of electrical engineering here. But do taller towers with more powerful lines present any interference with cell phone technology?
no, No,
Okay.
that's not gonna be a problem.
Okay.
Nope.
Does it help it?
Well, I mean, actually, we have a lot of repeaters and stuff on our
That
poles.
are on your
We-
poles.
yeah,
I would
we
think
have
you would
equipment
repeat off of those.
On
yeah.
our poles. so-
Okay, all right, just want to
Okay.
make sure there wasn't some unintended,
Yeah.
unforeseen, okay, great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks
Oh,
for your
thank you.
time, and we'll send a letter along and some samples so you can see what
Yep.
other towns have said.
Yep, sounds
And,
great.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have a fun thing on the agenda. We have a young man in our town, Hunter Howe, who, as part of his quest for Eagle Scout rank and his Eagle Scout project, that did a lot of work on the War Memorial Park walkway and a couple of flagpoles, and the project came out fantastic, and we wanted to thank Hunter and congratulate him on the completion of his project and offer him this certificate of appreciation presented in recognition of outstanding performance and dedication to Hunter Howe for your outstanding community volunteer efforts with regard to the War Memorial Walkway project. So thank you very much. Thank you, sir. All right, congratulations.
And then Kevin, he needs you to sign his book.
Ah,
I have this final report here that needs to be signed and answer any questions if you need to have answered.
okay. Did you guys have any questions?
I did. I did read through his book, but I didn't have any.
Yeah, I walked over and looked at, well, we all saw you when you were doing it too. And
Yeah.
if I remember right, it was a couple of the hotter days that we had this summer, and we got to call out your dad too. He was over there schlepping bricks or whatever. So.
Right here on this page.
Okay.
We had hot days this summer?
Couple.
Couple.
I know we didn't have much rain.
No.
Just filling my pool up every couple seconds. It seemed like.
I know.
It just.
That's not fun on a dug well.
I took care of that problem.
Yeah, I know. You say that's the best day, the day you put it in.
Although
the
she
day
keeps
you-
saying maybe we shouldn't have. Well,
Begin a new one. It sounds like, buddy.
actually, there was a lot of.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I think Hunter raised a lot of money on this too, on his own, so he saved.
Yeah, he raised
Saved.
$975.
Good work, man.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
The whole the town's expense
you.
was less than
$300.
right? Yeah,
That's
so
pretty good.
outstanding.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Okay, next we have Paul first. Citizens joining us tonight. Go on up, have a seat, Paul.
Actually, he's third.
Great.
Yeah, right. So just to kind of set the context for this a little bit, at our town meeting last April, a lot of citizens, Paul among them, were asking some really legitimate questions about our capital expenses and our plans, and we're looking for information that on replacement schedules and things of that sort. And it really kind of shown some light on the fact that we don't have a what I would call comprehensive capital improvement program. I think we didn't have it at that meeting, but like the fire chief does have a replacement schedule of his own, and Public Works has one, but we didn't have a comprehensive, long-term focused plan to present to the town, and so we kind of demonstrated the need to perhaps look at. We asked Paul to come in and tell us what would a CIP process or a capital improvement program potentially look like, because we're at the ground floor of this. So Paul, former town manager in New Gloucester, who's managed these processes before, agreed to come in and kind of give us a presentation on what's entailed and answer some questions, and he let us know that we can ask him, but he's not going to be the leader of the CIP committee. So
There's some good communication.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
between Staff and the chair. That's great to see you guys talk.
So please,
I was getting ready to make a
Okay.
motion.
yeah, right. I know, right.
Can't we override something?
I'm not completely giving up. Paul's been very gracious, and I've asked him several questions about things already, and I know Ruth, taps his knowledge quite often. So we're lucky to have you in town. So
Oh, yeah, and I should also take this opportunity to say thank you to the board for allowing Ruth to come to New Gloucester, and this was probably, I don't know, 7 or 8 months ago, to substitute for Charlene Myers when she was down stock car racing in North Carolina. We had no one to register vehicles. So,
Oh, goodness.
you know, this is what other towns do, of course, is they help each other.
Yeah.
So I'm no longer in that position, but I'm certainly happy to help where I can.
Yeah, thank you very much. So why don't we start at the beginning? If you give us an
Sure.
overview of
Yeah.
what it looks like.
And I will say, I wasn't sure exactly what you folks were looking for this evening, so I didn't prepare a presentation as such, but I put together a memo for you. Just a one-pager to kind of outline for you what CIP, at least as I'm familiar with it, looks like. And, my experience with CIP was for about 5 years as town planner. I participated in the CIP process in New Gloucester from the perspective of department head, and then as town manager for, I think four rounds, I was, in the manager position. So, but, I don't think there's a lot of rocket science to it. I don't think there's that much variation, honestly. So I put together this memo, and I think the New Gloucester template is a fairly good one because it's pretty tried and tested. They've been doing it for 20 plus years, and it's worked for them. At the moment, I'll say they have no bond debt. That is probably not in reflection of their special town meeting last night. Where
I heard about that one.
they got a big project on the horizon.
Yeah.
But at the moment, they have no bond debt, and they have a very, very healthy undesignated fund. So they're in a financial position that I think many other towns would like to be in, and this process seems to work for them. So, why CIP? CIP does a number of different things for you that are important. You've got, during budget time, you've got a lot of competing priorities, or you've got a lot of competing projects, and you have to prioritize those. And you have to be thinking long-term, and that's really difficult to do when you're just looking at this year to year, and that's really why you need a plan. You need a plan to sort this out, and also so you're able to save year to year, save for these individual projects and plan for them. Because, as you know, by the time you fulfill the requirements for running town hall and all, public works and fire and all those things and paving, there's not a lot left over. So it's important to plan. And then the other piece of it that I think you can't underestimate is building community support for the expenditures. Because just through the process, basically people learn about the projects. Because, this is a series of meetings that are held by this committee, by CIP committee, and they really flesh them out with regard to, are there additional expenses, for example, associated with a particular project? What's the need for the project? Tell us, department head, about the need for the project. And of course, they have to submit an application ahead of time to the town manager. There are these different kind of layers of vetting. But through this process, the public becomes more knowledgeable about the project. So when they get to town meeting, it's not just, the budget committee and the selectmen. You've got this whole other committee out there, and hopefully people, the project has been pretty well vetted, and hopefully, you're pretty much ready to go.
Do you think that, do you typically see the CIP committee as a separate entity from the budget committee?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it certainly is in New Gloucester, and that's my experience. And I think there's value to that, too, having that be a separate entity.
Okay.
Because, it's a chunk of work. Going through the budget, I don't know how many times your budget committee meets and exactly how your budget process works. Whether you guys do your budget first, or the budget committee does their budget first, or whether you guys are doing your budgets at the same time, I don't know. I'm not familiar with that. But the bottom line is, it's a sizable chunk of work here, and I think there's some value to that, having that independence
Okay,
between the
good.
committees. That's what I think. Now, that said, there's a lot of cross-pollination. So, there's cross-pollination. Typically, you'd have a budget, one or two budget committee representatives on the committee, and you'd also have a selectmen's representative. So, ideal committee, you've got cross-pollination there and representatives from the other boards.
Okay.
So I think that, the process, it seems to work, and that's why everyone is doing it. That's why everyone in Southern Maine is doing it. Now, I don't know if you go further north, I'm sure that, you don't find the same level of capacity in a lot of smaller communities. You can't do it. But if you look at the surrounding towns, everyone's doing it. Even Pownell, I understand, has some type of CIP process. So, I think it does work, and from my experience, it does work. How you set up the program, and I think this is where I could probably be the most helpful, is in the setup. Is just kind of assisting with some guidance on the setup. It's fairly simple, really kind of the biggest nut to crack, and I think, I should say first off, don't expect this to be done by town meeting. Don't expect to go to town meeting with a whole CIP, with ranked projects through a CIP process. Now, if you could go to town meeting and have a policy, your CIP policy, all complete.
You mean for this first year?
Yeah. Now, that'd be a great goal.
Yeah.
But you won't, this year, you won't be in a position,
Yep.
you wouldn't be in a position to have, to have implemented this.
Right.
But you could get a good start. So the first step would be to create your CIP policy. And, for example, in New Gloucester, they have their policy they call it their handbook. And it's fairly detailed, but it's, at the same time, it's fairly boilerplate. There's no reason, in my opinion, to do a lot of reinventing of the wheel in this kind of, in this type of project. Pick New Gloucester and maybe 2 or 3 other samples, look at them, and then you can put together a policy really here in no time, I think.
Yep.
And the policy also includes some basic information about, everything from scoring to the process steps, and includes how the projects will be scored by the committee and those kinds of things. So it's got a fairly good level of detail there, and that'll help keep you, I found, that's really helpful. That's really helpful for the committee, because when they get into the nitty-gritty of this, they have somewhere to look in terms of, okay, the handbook says this is what we need to be doing. But, so there's a fair level of detail, but that detail is already there in these other handbooks. It's fairly boilerplate. I think you can borrow it from other communities. So that's really the first step, is creating this policy. At the same time, now what New Gloucester did is New Gloucester appended their CIP program to their comp plan. So it's basically an appendix of their comp plan. It's part of their comp plan. Now, the great thing about that is it's really set in stone in terms of the legal foundation. The bad thing about that is you want to change anything in the policy, you have to go through a comp plan revision process, which means I think it's like a 60-day public notice, and there's a lot of requirements to amend your comp plan. So you may want to check with the town attorney with regard to, first of all, this policy, your CIP policy. Does it need to be approved by your legislative body? Or is it something the selectmen can just approve?
Okay.
I think that's really kind of your first question. And,
Yeah.
I think you really want to start off on the right foot here. You want there to be a strong legal foundation for these decisions. And so the question is, does the town attorney feel like this needs to be approved by the legislative
Yeah.
body or not?
Okay.
I think that's a good question. So after you've created the policy, you develop the mechanics related to just, the forms. Making sure, for example, you have a form, you just developed the form templates. That's easy, and I provided for you some samples
Yep.
from New Gloucester. The form templates are generally easy. There's the request form, and then there are the replacement schedules, okay? And there's the 5-year plan.
Yep.
That's pretty much, those are like the 3 templates that you need. And, if anyone if Ruth would like help with that, I'm happy to assist. But that's something that is, can be done very quickly.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then you basically, then it's time to establish your committee. And once you've got your approved policy and you've got your forms together, you can appoint your committee and you can start your process. Part of the policy, I'd recommend having in that policy some type of rough schedule for the different steps for that process and the different steps. And, then you'll be ready to get going. Now, typically how this process works, and I outlined this a bit in the memo, but the department heads submit their requests annually along with their revised replacement schedules to the administrator or manager and for review. And then the manager, and I didn't put this in there, but then the next step is really that the department heads meet with the administrator or the manager. And they sit down, and it's kind of like the first pass. And it's kind of like the manager's opportunity to say, I don't think that maybe this is a really good year for that, for this reason or that reason. And I think it's going to be really tough to sell. Or tell me about how you got your number. How did you get your number? I see here that you haven't included the cost of annual certification of this piece of equipment or something like. Is there any type of annual certification?
Yep.
Do we have to do this? Is there a law? Is DEP telling us, we have to buy the street sweeper? Or is there some type of requirement? Or is this just something, is this a need or is it a want?
Right.
So, the manager gets to start kind of fleshing that out, whether it's a need or a want. And that sometimes is challenging because, sometimes, I know I've had department heads that they want to do it anyway. Even though it's kind of a crazy idea, they want to take it forward, and sometimes it can be hard to say no, but, I won't get into that, other than to say that, everybody kind of finds their own path through that challenge. So next step is the manager revises the 5-year plan. So you take those requests and you assemble them all. And the requests they come in 2 types. Basically, they might be a request for a future project that is going to take place in 3 or 4 years. That's on a schedule. It's a piece of apparatus the fire department wants to buy. Okay, and it's on the replacement schedule as it's coming up in 3 years or something like that. So they're asking for a request for their reserve this year for the amount of X. Okay, so that's a reserve request. The other type of request is really, it's like a project request for a project that you're going to do this coming year. You want to take money out. So, you want to take money out of your account, out of your reserve account or for whatever, to buy a dump truck or to buy a fire truck or whatever it may be. So 2 types of requests. So again, the next step, what the manager does is the manager collates all of these requests into this 5-year plan. And basically what the 5-year plan shows is it shows the projects and the reserves, and it shows, you know, the account numbers, what the item is, the priority. Okay, so, you know, interesting how looking at this 5-year plan, most of them are priority 1, right? But the estimated cost, the account balance, the year, it kind of provides a summary, an overview of the projects. And by whether it's a reserve or whether it's a, you know, someone asking to take money out for an actual project that's going to be implemented that next year. So, and then it also says whether, I believe, whether they're rated or not. Not rated. Yeah, you see, for example, capital improvements or reserves on this one are split into not rated and ones that are rated are below. That's kind of a subtlety, and, you know, that depends on how you put together your policy. But for example, you know, this policy has language in it that says if you don't change your plan every year, you know, if you don't change your plan, then the committee doesn't have to rate it. You know, it automatically goes in. You don't get rated, but you automatically rise to the top. So, you know, that honestly, it very rarely are department heads able to do that because the costs of things change so much year to year. But there are provisions that, you know, you can get around the rating process on some projects. But anyway, that's a detail we don't really have to go into, other than to say that, you know, it's there. So manager puts together the 5-year plan. Then the manager comes to the selectmen with the requests and the request applications, the replacement schedules, and the 5-year plan. And then the selectmen get kind of their first glimpse at this. So what's going on here? And this is typically, you know, something on the order of maybe like, we're talking 6-7 months before town meeting. Okay, like 6 months roughly before town meeting. You guys get your view of this. And you have the ability to say, well, you know, why are we doing this project? You know, is it realistic to build a secondary egress out of the basement of the library? You know, like, why are we doing this? Does this make sense? Or is there another option? Is there another way of getting this done? Typically, department heads are present, managers present. You get to have a little bit of dialogue about these projects and ask questions. And, you know, you can also, if you want to be heavy-handed, you can say at that stage, you could say no. You know, we don't want to see this at this point. I think typically what I've more often seen is they'll kind of let the process play out. But, you know, you can certainly say, you know, no, we don't want that. We don't want to move that on because we feel strongly there's another way to do this. So we're not going to accept that application. You have the ability to do that. So after that's done, after it's been vetted, then the staff puts together what's called the CIP notebook. And basically this is the background information that the committee needs to make their decision. And it's probably, I don't know if you guys, what you do for budget books for the budget committee and for the selectmen, but it's a similar type of thing. It just contains all the background material that the committee is going to need to make a decision. And for example, New Gloucester, this is the notebook from our last CIP process. And it includes everything from the meeting schedule to the committee members to the handbook that has the rules, the 5-year plan, a sub-account report, the pavement management plan, the vehicle replacement schedules, in this case the balance of the TIF account, and then for each department their requests. So, you know, it's kind of like, it's a reference. Everything's there. It's great because at the end of the program, you put it on your shelf and you have the whole process is pretty much documented. as you get revised requests in, you file them in the notebook, and then the whole process is documented, and it goes on the shelf or in the vault. So, then you're ready to meet with your committee members. And, typically, the whole idea of the committee meetings is that it's an opportunity for the committee members to meet with the department heads, basically, and ask their questions. So, and typically, the way that it happens is committee members will ask a question like, let's see, instead of getting a heavy rescue, could you get a light rescue? In other words, give me an equipment list for what's going to be carried on the new rescue. Okay, can you give us an equipment list for what's going to be carried on the new rescue? So this is the opportunity for them to really delve into the detail that sometimes, honestly, you guys don't have time to delve into.
Yep.
So they can kind of get into the nitty gritty and flesh this out. So, and then, they might meet with Public Works and with Fire, and whoever else. So, but in this case, probably, Public Works and Fire. And then, they come back. A typical process for, depending on how you like to structure it, 4 meetings is probably all you need.
Okay.
At the max, you can probably do it in 4 meetings. Well, really 5 for the one, because you need a meeting to accept the scores after they're scored.
Okay.
So probably in total it's 5. So then, they gather all their information, and then the committee members all go off on their own, and they score their applications based on set criteria. Based on set criteria that are provided in that CIP policy. And I won't go back and try to fish some of them out at this point, but I can provide some examples to you. But they have, set criteria, and they have to score the projects, the individual projects. And then they have to have all their scores in, and each project has like a score sheet. So they have to have their scores in to the person, and often it's, rather than being a staff member, it's a committee member. Maybe it's the chair of the committee, someone like that, who collates those scores into a summary sheet, okay? And basically translates all those scores into a ranking. So all those requests, all those project requests and reserve requests get ranked. And let's say you had, 17 applications that year, so they'd be ranked from 1 to 17. So, the committee gets together one final time, they accept the ranking, and then that's passed on to the selectmen and to the budget committee. And then, how it has worked in how New Gloucester does it. The budget committee in New Gloucester doesn't typically make a recommendation on CIP. It's typically left to the selectmen. And the selectmen typically do it after they wait, they go through their operations budget, they go through the whole operations budget, they look at paving and CIP together, and they think about, okay, well, how far down this list can we go? And they look at each one of those items, and let's say there are 12 of them. Okay, where are we going to draw the line? Are we going to draw the line at number 6? Well, let's see, maybe number 5, we could give them less money because there's another way of doing this project. We think there's a way to save a little money there, so we're going to give them less, okay? And then we're going to draw it at number 7 instead. I think one of the important principles is that you're not allowed, or one of the principles that I found was very effective, is you're not allowed to cherry pick. You're not allowed to skip. So you have to take the rankings as they are. In terms of, putting them on the warrant, actually putting them on the warrant for the voters to decide. Take the rankings as they are. So if you can only go to 7, you only go to 7, but you can't fund 9, okay? But what you can do, or what, I think is fairly common, is you can give people less money if you think there's a reasonable way for them to otherwise do the project.
Yeah.
Or if it's a reserve account, you might just be putting less into reserve.
Mm-hmm. Is a deposit into a reserve account, is that typically listed among the priorities for that, for a year? Like if it's ranked, 1 through 12,
Yeah.
would one or more of those be not purchasing something, but putting money into a
Yes.
reserve account?
Right. So let's say those 12 projects, you may have 7 or 8 of them that are reserve accounts, and then you may have 5 that are actual projects. Only 5 that are actual projects.
Okay.
So, on some of those reserve accounts, you may decide, well, we really want to be able to do this next project down on the list. So we're going to put a little less into reserve under, whatever it is.
I gotcha. Okay.
So, or maybe we think there's another way. Maybe we don't want to buy the 0-turn Kubota diesel mower. Maybe we want to buy something that's a little, less money. Maybe there's another way to get that done, or something like that. So, you can work with it that way, but I think the piece of not skipping is really that upholds the, kind of the commitment to the
The
process.
integrity of
and
the
integrity of
CIP
the
committee,
process.
sure. Yeah.
Exactly. So each one of those projects is given a separate warrant article at town meeting,
Mhm.
and then the voters get to decide.
So the voters can cherry pick, but we don't put.
That's right. The
Right.
voters can cherry pick.
So
Yeah.
right.
You bet. Well, the interesting thing that I found is that I don't think I can remember hardly a single occasion where a CIP item was voted down at town meeting. Because by the time you got there, it had been hashed out so thoroughly. And part of the beauty of it is you get to town meeting, you've really got answers. Because, and it's not that whole burden isn't just on the selectmen, but you've got the CIP committee members
Right.
who kind of, in a way, they kind of have your back, because they're the ones who really have to get up and say, well, why did we choose this?
Right.
And I think.
Why did this rank so highly, and what were the questions that we asked, and what were the answers that we got?
It's not just the fire department asking for a fire truck or Public Works asking for a plow truck. It's other town members making a judgment, listening and recommending that, yeah, we should do this, or no, we shouldn't do this.
That's right. I think that's a really good point. So it also takes some of that burden off of the department heads.
Yeah.
So last point I have here is just a note that in New Gloucester, for example, and I think that many towns do this, they recognize, look, we got to pave our roads. So what are we doing putting that in the CIP process? It doesn't really make a lot of sense. Do we want to put this committee in the position of prioritizing roads? A lot of selectmen, I think, have decided no. We'd rather kind of hold that back for our control over that for ourselves, because it is so critical. And so what happens for paving is that the public, you include in the CIP process the paving schedule, so everybody can see what's on the paving schedule for this year, what's going to be on the paving schedule in 5 years, when does my road come up, and their own pieces of interest. But that the paving schedule, you look at for any given year, those roads that are on the paving schedule for that year, and the tonnage and the estimate of cost associated with those roads. When you get through with the operations budget, then you're looking at that paving schedule and CIP, kind of at the same time. And you're figuring, how far down can I go on the CIP list? And how far down can I, or how many of those roads can I pave? How close can I get to keeping up with that paving schedule? Which honestly, almost no one is able to keep up with their paving schedule.
Right. So,
Because it is just so darn expensive.
yeah. So, question on the paving schedule I had, as I wrote down several questions as I was reading through some of the stuff, is, in your experience, in terms of planning and a paving schedule, do you typically make a distinction between what I would call normal maintenance paving, like every 10 or 12 years, whatever, you're going to repave a road?
And the
versus
rebuild.
The rebuild, right,
Yeah.
that you might bond. So how do you see those, pieces kind of playing off each other in this process?
Well, that's interesting because I don't think you're going to be able to, the rebuilding of the roads, I think you're going to struggle really kind of feeding those into the CIP process.
Right.
And I think that you're going to find that there are still projects, and I think, the best you can plan it in and try to build up some savings for paving, for regular paving, for maintenance paving. And you may want to have some kind of, you could have some kind of generic road reconstruction account. Have a generic road reconstruction account. You could have two accounts. You could have maintenance, you could have generic road reconstruction. But the problem is you get into projects sometimes that just blow the socks off your budget, no matter what you do. And you don't have any choice but to either dip into, some a TIF fund or bond, or bonded, or something like that.
Yeah.
And to bring that often as either, a special town meeting type of project, or as, a regular town meeting separate warrant article.
All right, but for
And
the,
that might be your major road reconstruction, or your public works garage,
yeah,
that kind of thing.
big thing like that. Okay.
So, that's it in a nutshell, really. So, it's always a balance, trying to figure out how to provide good governance without, spending a reasonable amount of effort. Spending a reasonable amount of effort. And so, you want to try to find that balance, of course. At the same time, maybe the time is coming for something like this.
Yeah.
Maybe it is. And it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And I think that where it pays off is just, of course, these are big projects, and not only are you, when something gets agreed to at town meeting, not only are we agreeing to fund that purchase, but then next year it'll be on the replacement schedule for some time in the future.
Right.
So, yeah, I guess, quite a lot at stake, really. But that's pretty much all I've gotten, and I'm happy to help in any way I can.
Thank you very much. You still, it seems like you still have, it's not all just, even though you have a CIP process, you still have different reserve accounts for different, like, just fire department typically still have their own reserve account, and does
Yes.
public works typically still have their own reserve account?
Exactly.
Okay, and the town is putting, voting to put whatever into each of those accounts based
Yeah.
upon maybe what the replacement schedule shows a future need might be? or-
Well, now, the way that generally works is, for example, fire department, there'd be a reserve account for vehicles,
Yep,
okay? And so, and it would be associated with that vehicle replacement schedule. And then you might have a separate reserve account for, I don't know, water holes, for something like that. It's not, for digging water holes
okay.
or something like that. Or, I shouldn't say vehicles, because I should probably say equipment. And, it includes not only, the vehicles, but it could also include, for example, the SCBA, self-contained breathing apparatus. When you switch over to, I don't know if we have the low pressure or the high pressure, but a lot of this equipment gets bought on grants and then it like expires and it all expires at once, and all of a sudden, you need to buy $150,000 worth of, breathing apparatus.
Right.
So, you could widen that definition a little bit to include both vehicles and equipment.
Yeah, okay. And then, do you have any thoughts on, currently the town, like if there's unexpended funds from the operational budgets of fire and public works, those unexpended funds don't go back to the town undesignated fund account. It goes into the reserve accounts for those departments. Do you have an opinion on whether is that a common best practice, or is that somewhat unusual, or do you have an opinion on that?
I think it's probably somewhat unusual. So, yeah, I'm not particularly a fan of that myself. I expect all my employees to, really shop carefully and to follow the purchasing policy, to get multiple quotes and to shop carefully, and that their budget be well thought out. And then by the time that it gets through the budget committee, that there's not a lot of extra left. By the time it gets through both the selectmen and the budget committee, that there's not a lot of extra left.
Right.
So, I guess my fear would be that they would possibly try to make their budgets a little higher, of course. I don't know. I mean, I can see how it could potentially work either way, but I think it's a bit unconventional.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You can always use past years' histories of what they've asked for, what they've spent, to see if they've actually padded it that much. So that should kind of keep it in line fairly well. If you've got 10 years of history of, asking for somewhat some of the same things, or in their budget, they asked for 5,000, they only spent 25, and they're still asking for 5. Well, we know we can cut that back. So that history will help with some of that.
Yeah, it depends on whether you have the same, how long it's been going on.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But if you've been watching it year after year, you should be actually you should be catching it up every year, so that it hasn't got that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think my experience has been that, and I'm sure our department heads are all very careful in their spending, and I of course, I don't think there's any abuse or anything like that. I think abuse is pretty unlikely, but yeah, I mean, you could do it either way, but it is, I think, a little unconventional. It doesn't mean you have to change it. I mean, you can,
Right. Well, I don't.
if it works, if you feel like it works.
I mean, sometimes when I've been in some
You guys know a
budget
lot
meetings-
better than I do, that's for sure.
Yeah, it seems like sometimes we try to cut it so close, and you said it, all of a sudden you gotta dip into this fund because something way unexpected happened. And I look at it like I try to make sure that I got a little extra in there just in case. So I don't have to start stealing from Peter to pay for Paul, because now we've opened up another can of worms. So, because you gotta put that back sometime.
Yeah.
So I try to look at it that way. I don't wanna add 10,000 if 1,000's gonna work, but I think you always gotta have the savings account just like you would at your house.
Well,
type of
here's-
thing. Not necessarily a
Here's
savings account.
one thing though, Mark. It's Mark, right?
Yes, yeah.
So, what if, for example, something happens like they're going to, in their budget is some type of, trading or some type of, or program that they're going to run, which they decide, or for some reason, they're not able to run. So it's not that they're trying to save money, but it just so happens that, they're not able to do it that year. And so there's this chunk of money that's left over. And it's not because they have been, super conservative with their budget this year. It just so happens the money's not going to get spent.
Right.
Because that thing is not going to happen this year. So that then goes into their reserve account rather than going back into, the town's undesignated fund. Now, this is the beauty of putting it back, is that by doing this, you build up your undesignated fund and you don't have to short-term borrow. It helps you build that up.
Right.
We typically in New Gloucester, we would put back somewhere between, $150,000 to $300,000 a year we put back. And over time, that really would build up. And so that's going to be one of your biggest source for building up a healthy rainy day balance, is putting unspent money back in.
Did you get pressure, because it was a pretty common practice in the town to the point where I think they, in years past, went too far and, they pretty much tapped undesignated funds as much as they could in a given year to reduce the tax rate in a given year for the community, and to the point now where our undesignated is probably, it is significantly lower than it should be.
Yes.
At this point.
It's a pretty easy sell, because you can say the auditor told us no. We can't.
Well, that's kind of what we're doing now.
So the auditor told us, no, we can't, because we have to have at least 3 or 4 months of operating funds. That's the bare minimum, at all times, to be able to run the show. Otherwise, we have to borrow, and that costs money.
Yeah.
So, and I think if you convey that to the public, they understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they understand that that's gonna come out of their pocket.
And I think they have it's the last at least 3 years.
Yeah.
We haven't taken anything
No,
out of
we've-
undesignated to.
Yeah, we've been trying to put it back. We did it for so long, and actually it was said at the time, we can't keep doing this, because at some point you gotta stop and you gotta put it back.
Yeah.
Well, we got to that point, so, and they seem to
Yeah.
understand it, yeah.
I think in my budgeting experience, there's always been some give and play, where you might take a little to help balance your budget, to help stabilize the tax rate. You might take a little, but that at the end of the year, there's going to be some coming back. But you see, in your case, it's only one way.
Right.
So you're only taking it out to help buffer the tax rate, but you need that, that ability to bring it back in
Right.
Yeah.
too.
Okay. Richard, do you have any questions?
Fine, that was very
Yeah.
informative. No,
Thank you very much, Paul. I really
Oh, sure.
appreciate you.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Anytime.
taking the
So many
time.
questions.
And I'm sure we'll be taking you up on your offer to provide some consulting to help us get this going.
Yes,
Oh,
can I
yeah,
take
yeah.
my motion now, or do I gotta still?
Can I scan the
Thank you very much, Mr. White.
Sure, the policy.
policy? Yeah.
Okay. Find my agenda here. Okay, the next thing on the agenda, planning services. I had sent a sample contract and I've been doing a lot of research and learning a lot about planning services lately, because we struggled as a board for a long time about, planner and CEO and what do we need for planning and whatever. And at least through the research I've done, I've kind of come to the realization that, planning and code enforcement are two very different skill sets, very different backgrounds, and it's not something that you can really, I think, realistically expect a single person to manage the way it needs to be managed. And quite honestly, I think we've been shortchanging the planning board for quite a while, because they haven't had any sort of planning resource. So anyway, I think we should table this until the other two board members are here, and we can talk about how we might want to approach planning services. Either, there's some contracting opportunities out there, but I want to, have the board talk and see if that's something we want to explore further and possibly include in our budget request for 2018. Okay. Ruth, are you close? Because the next thing on the agenda is town poll permit. Do you have the background on that, Calvin? Do you want to brief us on that?
There's a new house going on the Auburn Powell Road up the town line of Auburn and Durham, and they just need a pole to get power up to their house, so just a roadside pole.
Okay, do we have to vote to approve that permit, or is that something that you do as CEO?
It's not in the shoreline zone or anything, so it's just a regular, I think you guys just sign it.
Don't you call in the electricals?
Yeah, this is different, this is a pole.
This
Do they need an easement? Are they needing an easement? Is that why it's
I believe
different?
they have a blanket easement through the town, they just need a, I think the select board has to just sign it.
I'm not gonna stop people from getting power.
I think it's just a formality.
We need-
Well,
we need
the
their
big
house.
Power Street.
It's just a formality, they read CMP requires.
I think we've done these before.
Yeah, I think it's just a blanket.
Is it something we have to, all right, well, Ruth will have us sign it if we
Yeah.
need to sign
She
it.
has the blanket
I don't think
form,
there's
she has
anything.
the form.
Okay. And the next one, I think Tammy is going to give us some background
Yeah, I
on
can run down
Laytronics.
Real quick. There's 2 subscription services that are about to expire on the 20th, which is Saturday. And one of them is the Viabit one, which is where you guys used to put your the videos up online. And that's so when we go in there now, so people can watch old meetings from like 2 years ago. So that's still up, and we have that subscription service. But since we've moved everything to Town Hall Streams, and I do have the ability, and I've learned how to get whatever we want for meetings up there whenever we want, I can probably go back I even found VHS tapes I can convert and probably put those up on the Town Hall Streams. But, you know, right now, from what I've been getting up, we've got almost a full last year of meetings up on Town Hall Streams. So the thing was, I had met with Telecommunications Board, and they had said, you know, potentially just let go of the video Viabit streaming service, since we have Town Hall Streams, but did want to run it by you guys and then see with that one. So that's one of the subscription services. The other one is called Total Info, and that actually goes on our news cable channel 13. And those are the slides that come up throughout the day that show the weather, sports, this day in history, that kind of stuff. So it's really just like they're filler kind of slides that go up on there. And again, Telecommunications had talked about it. They thought there was a need to really just let it go. I was like, well, you know, there are people, you know, probably some of the elder community or people that still tap into that channel and watch those, and they could go to that but how many people are really looking at the channel? And we could fill it in with either more of our own slides. Telecommunications had talked about putting up, you know, more continual meetings, just replaying meetings, like every, you know what I mean, on the channel.
On the channel.
Over and over again. So it'd be, and I know how to change the
wow.
program or whatever. Yeah, so that was
Nobody's
it's
watching.
I'm gonna need an increase in the royalty payment.
Right, so if we remove that total info and have that kind of filler for times that we're not broadcasting meetings or,
Yeah.
you know, we have the regular slides that are going up. I mean, I could create a lot more slides if I had a lot more things.
Content, yeah.
You know,
It's all about content,
So
isn't
that's
it?
really it. So it's like, my biggest thing was I'm thinking along the lines with the video streaming service. It's definitely, unless anybody can think of a need for us to keep that. Total info, I think, is $9.50 a year, and we were paying basically to keep that going with just those slides, which can't until we can find. I mean, I can get some content from CCAT, which is the cable, but I'm still so new to this. I'm trying to-
Yep,
You know
yep.
what I mean? So that's it. The 2 subscription services with Laytronics.
And so on the Viabit, I think the first one you mentioned, that is, so without, if we let that go,
Yeah.
what would be on the site in terms of, meeting videos?
It's using Town Hall Streams.
Right, but I mean, how far back would we
go
go?
back a year, but we can put the disclaimer that if anybody wanted to see a video, they can contact us for a copy of it because we have
Okay,
copies
so
of
that-
everything. Or we can post. I mean, if there's an outcry for a town meeting from 6 years ago, I can get that up
my
on
God.
Town Hall Streams. You know what I mean? Something like that.
Sometimes it's
Correct.
just entertaining.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So
The
yeah.
movie's on.
Or if you guys
That's
wanted
entertainment.
to, you know, as a selectman or whoever wanted to say, hey, we want to at least have 2 years up, I could probably push those up to Town Hall Streams or however you want to do it.
I think
But
a
it would
year
just go away. and
Yeah,
then
I would
people
think so. I was
contact us
thinking
if
6
they want a
months was
copy.
plenty.
I think so too.
I think as long as there's the option that citizens, if for some reason they need to go back, you know, whatever, 2 years, 3 years, and see, I need to see, because it has come up. I mean, it's usually almost in the context, maybe more so planning board than some other meetings, but as long as we have access to that, I don't think it needs to be a direct link on the webpage, but I think going back a year, or as Rich said, even 6 months.
Yeah,
is
I would
plenty.
think, yeah, that's
Yeah.
plenty.
I think I might even put a form up that says, if you want, give me the, here's the form of date, everything,
Yeah,
submitted official, and we'll
Yeah.
mail you a copy of the, if
I
someone
think
wants it
that's
that
fine.
bad.
Yeah, yeah.
And as far as the total info, I think my sense is to let that go. I can't. How long before that actually expires?
By Saturday, exactly.
Oh, I say if we had more time,
Weeks,
you
so-
could have snuck a slide in there that said, if you're actually reading this,
Let us know.
let us know if you'd be upset if it went away.
If we let it go and they really were, we'll
They'll
find that
call
out
us,
too.
right? Yeah, they'll let us know. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you need us to actually vote on that,
I just wanted to
or
run it by and see what your sense was too, because like you said, talking telecommunications, they rarely meet. We were all kind of more entwined. You guys are more entwined with the day-to-day and the citizens and talking to them. And if you had a sense that they're really into this day in history, or they go there every day for their daily weather or something.
What was the cost of the slides again? I missed.
The total
$9.50.
info is $9.50 a year, and I believe the Viabit was 1970 or something like that for the whole year.
So $1,000 for the total info. I just,
Yeah. So it's about $10 a month, I'd say.
yeah. It's just another thing to,
almost, yeah.
Sorry.
it's just another public tracking that we have something that we're
Well, we'll-
advertising now that.
We'll still have, the regular information slides would still be there.
So we'd still have
Yeah, like I said, it's.
vaccinate your dog or whatever it is this
Yeah,
month.
that's-
Boosters has this program,
Yeah, I
it's,
can make-
it's
I can
it's
make
only the
those
filler
slides.
that's
Only
just
the weather and things of that.
in this day in
Yeah,
history.
and I can make those
Fun
slides all day long.
facts.
If you guys have
We can-
ideas
yeah.
for me, you send them and I'll make a slide to put up there and we can put in.
Just don't violate any copyright rules, we'll be-
Yeah.
No, that's mostly it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so
So
I think our consensus
Yeah.
is we're okay
We're
letting
good with
those.
it, yeah.
letting
Yeah, do we
those
need a
go.
motion for that or just let them go or?
So
We
moved.
good? So moved.
Second?
Let them go.
Let 'em go.
All right, we're all in favor, so just in case you need a vote, so. Now, Ruth, while you were out of the room, we kind of skipped over the town poll permit. Is there anything we need, Calvin kind of briefed us on it. Is there anything we need to sign or vote on? or
Standard.
You're gonna have to
anything
sign it, but,
Okay.
Just standing for somebody to get their power, correct? It's nothing,
yeah, they just give them to us.
not giving easements over across Kevin's property.
We'll set a poll to the town.
there? You're gonna make me move my pool.
Give us some talk here already.
We could ask him while he was here.
That was a pretty thorough presentation.
A little more thorough than I was expecting.
Yeah, it was. Actually, both of them were probably more thorough than I was really expecting.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we do some of the things that Paul was talking about, but maybe on a different scale.
Yeah, I think we have some of the pieces, like
Yeah.
the replacement
Yeah.
schedules and
Yeah.
stuff like that, but it's bringing them all together in context with each other and prioritizing across and having a long-term plan. I think would add value, but we'll talk more about that when the other guys are
He's
here.
They got
Makes- I think
more
it just
in
makes
the
good
town.
business sense. I don't,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just.
It's
what
a
you-
responsible
It's what you do. It's a
management of
responsible
town
exactly,
resources, right?
exactly.
So, okay, 7G, oath for Historic District Commission.
Yep, we have a request to put Paige Atherton on the Historic District Commission. We will need a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to put Paige on the Historic District Commission.
I would second that. All in favor? All right.
And then I've done up 2 oaths for our new code enforcement officer, Robert Forrest, and I've done them separately. There's one that's got code enforcement, building inspector, and electrical inspector on it, and then I have one that just has the licensed plumbing inspector. And the reason I did it this way is because we have to get a waiver
Because
to
he's not
appoint
certified
him
yet.
as the licensed plumbing inspector.
Why?
Because you have to have the training for the licensed plumbing inspector before you can be
I
appointed.
don't think he's already.
Oh, I thought he
don't think
had
he's certified.
plumbing. I thought he had plumbing and building, but didn't have the legal.
No, he has building and energy codes.
Okay, that's the other one. Okay.
So he
yep.
doesn't have the plumbing. So Calvin can keep doing our plumbing for now, and I think maybe until I find out whether Mr. Lawson's gonna waive that or not, maybe the next meeting we'll bring it back. But we should definitely do this one tonight, where we give him code enforcement, building inspector, and electrical inspector. So I'll need a motion for that.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Oops.
We're gonna pick him up and bring him in for his first day.
In a limo. I think we should hire a limo to bring him in.
Lock the doors so we
Make
can't
him
get
feel
out.
special.
Alvin's responsible for picking him up at his house every day.
I won't pick him up.
Okay, we have, next we have fire chief, but I don't see,
No, he had actually asked to be on the schedule. He was hoping to make it tonight because he wanted to talk to you guys about an RFP that went out for Lisbon for EMA services, but he doesn't seem very concerned about it, but he wanted to let you guys know about it. And then the other thing is he was under the impression that we were going to actually talk about this tonight, but unless you guys want to discuss it or have any issues with it.
what did he ask for, Chief? I noticed that like, the original draft said you need to live within 20 miles, and now it says you need to live within 5 miles.
Well, I talked to him a while. He thinks that, and I agree with him that somebody needs to be a part of the community. The reason we had done 20 miles, Diana and I had talked about it, we had done 20 miles to begin with, but the must live or be willing to move within 5 miles is what the volunteers are required to do. And so that's why we used that.
I have concerns about that because it could dramatically narrow our pool,
I think so too.
which
20 miles, but you're all the way to Portland, but you,
Yeah, 20 miles is pretty far.
it's a long way.
5 miles, you could live just about anywhere around here, you know.
you couldn't live in Brunswick. Well,
Yeah, you could.
on my end of town,
I-
you'd barely be into Brunswick.
Well, it's 5 miles from the boundaries of the town. It's not 5 miles from the fire station.
Oh, all right.
About within a half hour of the town. Do we
Well,
have to put a
that's-
mileage?
Depends on how fast you drive.
Yeah.
He's a fire chief. He's gonna put his lights on. I mean, most I got that 30 minutes because that's what most surgeons, medical professionals, they have to live within 30 minutes of the.
So is this out yet? Is this posted yet?
Yeah, but I've edited it a couple times, so we
Okay,
can re-edit
'cause-
it again.
Yeah,
Just
we
give
might,
it
because,
candidates.
I appreciate the chief's input, but we shouldn't be making any changes to anything just based on his input. It should go through the board first. So, I don't know, I'm hesitant to stay with that 5 mile.
5 is still tight, but yeah.
Yeah, I am too. I mean,
Do we leave it a little more generic and we say, expect to,
Move your
live within
area.
close proximity and be able to respond in a timely manner, like leave it reasonable, yeah.
Reasonable
a
distance.
half hour
And
thing.
then we can define that based
that
upon
puts
the
you in Freeport.
situation.
20 minutes to put you in the
Right, 'cause
Freeport,
I
so
live-
that's a half hour, so that's not that far away.
I
Right,
live
right.
30
So, I
miles
mean-
from you, and it takes me 30.
That's more than 5 miles.
30
Well,
minutes to get here.
from the
30
boundary.
minutes is more than 5 miles.
Yeah,
I mean,
from the boundary, I suppose.
At Raymond Pond.
Raymond Pond?
Yeah.
Should Raymond Pond take a 31
Or, I'm
miles?
sorry, I live 21 miles. I live 21 miles away, and it takes me 36 minutes to get here. They should a little faster.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
we can get you
So
some
that's
lights.
20 miles, and that's just over a half hour, so, and that's in good weather.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to see the maximum amount of candidates we can get.
Yeah, I'd rather not,
Let's
my
make
suggestion
it-
would be to not put a mileage on it and go with some sort of, close proximity,
Within reason.
within a reasonable, within a.
And we'll be able to make that judge when we get there.
Exactly, let's.
We have the right to,
Yeah, I know.
We
If the
don't,
guys
that's
live
right,
in
we don't
wells
wanna,
or
we
something.
don't wanna
you know.
overly
right.
tighten the filter before
Right.
we even have a pool of candidates,
Right.
so.
I think that's reasonable.
So must live or be willing to move within a reasonable proximity of the town of Durham's boundaries?
Yeah, that's ambiguous enough.
Yeah.
don't we have a,
Something like that.
Just keep it ambiguous. I don't want to make
yeah.
it. You got to be X or you.
Were there any other significant
Yeah, he's at 6
changes?
miles. It's like,
Don't we have something with the town crew? If we call them in, they have to respond within,
Yeah, they have to be here within, I think it's an hour.
yeah, I think that's what it was. So, Yeah, I mean,
So-
obviously, I'd like to see the fire chief quicker than that, I was going, we were in trouble, but,
Yeah.
but I know we have something similar, so,
For your guys.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think we gotta trust the board to use its best judgment
Yes,
on, like,
exactly.
if somebody from Presque Isle applies, and then,
Right.
that's probably not,
They'd have to
it
move.
doesn't wanna move, then that's probably not gonna cut it, right? So,
I mean, the difference is, you kinda know ahead of time, that the map's saying it's gonna start at this, so you get that call at a time. This one here, it's almost, whoops, there it is.
yeah,
Yeah,
Maybe this is the fire chief.
yeah.
so,
This time's up.
all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna keep moving.
Yeah, we'll keep moving and
All
then we
right,
can come back
um,
to them if we have to.
So, yeah, I think with that
Okay.
change, it looked fine.
I'll fix that one, okay.
I just forwarded you an email from the Pownell CIP committee.
Oh,
So I just sent it to you so you could, I think you'd be amazed if you went to one of their meetings, which is coming right up. I sent you the email. You see.
okay, well,
If you went to one of their meetings, I think you'd be astonished to be.
in a good way or a bad way?
In a good way.
Okay, all right.
They're all retired bankers and financial people, and they're just, it's amazing.
Okay, all right, good. That's good to know. That'd be a good benchmark, thanks.
Yeah. So, these are the,
That's because Powell has a lot of money.
They're
well, they're all
land rich.
they're all volunteers. They're all volunteers. I'm sure they'd be happy to show you how they do it. Yeah. So, okay. So the crew finished ditching Bowie Hill Road, replaced all the driveway culverts, replaced the cross pipes in the road, and cut a zillion trees, widened the road out. Looks like an actual neighborhood again. Other than the potholes in the road, we're waiting for Crooker. I keep getting answers of next week and next week and next week. So now he's at next week, but we're waiting for an answer from. Well, what happened last week was I got a call saying, "Oh, by the way, we can't do liquid asphalt injection anymore. That the last date for that is September 15th." So they didn't realize that at the time, so we switched to cement. They've got an opening, I think, for the end of next week. We're waiting for Quebec Cement or Cement Quebec, whichever. I think it's Cement Quebec, to get back to us. So hopefully I'll have an answer on that tomorrow, and they are going to go in there next week, and grind it up and put the cement injection, or the cement reclamation. Crew was in class all day today at the Durham Ambulance Hall for road painting, stripes, crosswalks, signs, all that stuff. Got some interesting information from them about crosswalks and things. And, the RFP results for the sands, winter sand. I have the bid sheet. And, so, the lowest price was from Albert Blackstone's Pit in Durham on the Big Sky Lane off from Route 9 where the campground is.
Oh, okay.
KOA campground. So, looked at the sand, it looks good. So I guess these were the sealed bids that we opened, Ruth and I opened at the meeting.
Is there, you said you looked at the sand, it looks good. I mean, are there different grades of road sand, or is there?
Well, I put a spec out. I mean, basically, I grab it and feel it, and if it feels like sandpaper, I like it, and if it feels like flour, I don't like it, and so it's either dead sand or, I mean,
Yeah.
anyway.
So was it sandpaper or flour? Did you like
Well,
it?
I don't like flour, so I like gritty, sharp sand. I like almost like a leach bed sand, good granular draining sand, and Blackstone seemed to. I mean, Cop had some very good. I mean, Portland sand and gravel had some very good sand, but when we put it out to bid, they went up on their price. So I mean, in Pownell, we paid $5 a yard for it, and we go pick it up, and that's their asking price. But when I had them put a bid in, they went up $2. So that's what happens when you put stuff out to bid. Sometimes it backfires. And
Yeah.
it actually works against you. So
Do you usually pick it up or have it delivered?
pick it up.
Pick it up.
We didn't do any last year because I took it right out of the budget because we just don't use the volume of sand that we used to in years past. So.
Yep. And So is that Blackstone, is that your recommendation that we go?
I'm happy with the sand. I've got samples of that, and I like it, so. It's the lowest bidder. It's in Durham, it's a Durham taxpayer, so.
Yeah.
Are you gonna be picking up sand, or are you gonna be having them deliver?
No, we'll pick it up.
But at $1.50 more a yard, is it really worth your time to pick it up? Because that's a hell of a number for $1.50.
I know, $1.50. It's a close haul for us, and sometimes if we get it delivered, they want to jam us, and then because we need to be processing it, mixing it with salt as we're putting it in, and we can slow or increase the pace at our leisure. But if they are hauling it, we
can't haul it for $1.50 though.
Probably not. I mean, it's
So why would we?
It's only,
why wouldn't we?
I mean, it's only 2-3 miles down the road from the.
Can we haul it for $1.50?
Well, probably not 12-yard load is, probably your payroll will cover that, but it's the idea of being able to control when and how.
I mean, you can schedule a delivery, right? Just schedule it for one day for X
Well,
amount of sand to come in.
Well, he said he'd want to have the trucks, like he said, he'd want to have it scheduled so that the trucks.
Well, yeah,
were
that's what I
coming
mean.
in.
You could schedule it and have one day. If for $1.50 for it to drop off at his fuel and his guy and his
Yeah,
truck,
I mean, if you-
I don't know why we're even thinking about going to pick up sand.
Yeah. I guess just the idea that we'd be able to control the whole operation and not have to.
We still could by scheduling it.
Well, yeah. We need one truck. If we need another truck, I can just add one, or maybe we could do a mixture. I can have him deliver what he wants, and if I need more, I can go get it. Or if I want to slow him down, then if I need to pick it back up, I can adjust that.
Okay.
What do you have there what do you have to mix it with? You usually have a loader and,
We have a loader and salt, and we have to mix 100 pounds of salt or a ton of. We have to make piles, and then we have to go around and sprinkle the salt on it.
how
and try to
long
mix
does it take
and
to mix
push
a
it in.
load?
Well, I mean, usually with 3 trucks hauling somewhat steady, it's a 2 or 3 day process usually, but we can make it happen, but.
Well, that's what I mean. Does it take like an hour to mix a wheel of load, or
No.
3 wheel loads, or 2 hours, or?
It's the loader keeping up with the truck. Sometimes if they get ahead of them, we'll just slow down a bit, and then we'll pick it back up. Or if the trucks get, so they're out of sequence and they're not rotating, they're all coming in at the same time, then we'll.
I mean, it does seem like pretty cheap
It is.
for that, to have them
Well, we'll
deliver
shoot
it.
for the delivered at $7.50, and if it's not working, we can always add a truck of our own. Yeah, I think.
I don't care either way. It does, if you can get it delivered,
Yeah.
there's no way
I mean, as
you
long
and a
as
guy
it's-
in a truck and
You know,
our
that's-
truck's
that's
expense
good.
can
As
get it
long as
done.
it's working that way.
Yeah, I mean, it is 2 or 3 miles down the road. It's pretty close. It's pretty close, but for $7.50, yeah, I mean, it's not a bad price. I mean,
You use, just use, well, you probably ain't got room for 2 rigs in there anyway, so you're probably just gonna use the loader, yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I can go either way, but it does seem like a pretty good deal to have them deliver it.
yeah, $7.50. I'm okay.
But it's just,
with that.
I mean,
Yeah.
if it's 3 miles down the road, I mean, it's $1.50. I mean, that's
gonna be quick.
That's 50 cents a mile. You can't put a guy in a truck and operate those vehicles
Right.
with gas for 50 cents a mile.
Yeah, if he's willing to do it for $7.50, we'll take it.
Yeah.
Well, that's
I'm okay. I don't think we have to set,
Right.
like,
Just pick the vendor.
tonight, say, well, you must pick up or you must deliver. I'm okay leaving it to your discretion.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, as a department head, you're charged with using the town resources as efficiently as you can. You know, there might be some other reason that you're trying to articulate as to why you think it might be worth picking it up yourself, or maybe it's saving you something on some other. So I'm fine letting you use your discretion.
Yeah.
But knowing that, hey, that $7.50 is a pretty good deal, and
It is.
if it can make, if
Yeah.
it makes sense and we can do it, we should,
Yeah.
be good to do it.
As long as we can keep up with him, and he's not just saying, the truck's gotta roll right now, and if I say slow down, he goes, okay, well, good, we're gonna pull off and go down the job then, and we went back for a week,
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, that's for you. That's
Right,
for,
I can- as long
that's
as I
for you
have
to
that-
work out
Yeah.
with the vendor, right? So-
And I guess if you're gonna go that way, make sure that if that's the way it starts and then it does get to be too much pressure and you wanna go back to this, he's willing to go back and do it for this.
Oh, yeah, no, he'll go with,
Yeah, okay, all
I'll
right.
lock him
Then
into
I
both
can-
of those.
I can live with that.
Yeah, I'm assuming that,
But it's
I'm
one or the
assuming that
other.
you don't have to pick a road for the season at the beginning, right? I mean, you can say, well, I'm I'm gonna pick up a load this time, but next time I need you to deliver
Yeah.
it because of something, whatever. One of my trucks is broken or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I just,
No, that makes sense. I mean.
I disagree.
Yeah, right.
In terms of if it's $750, rather than spending a guy down there and standing there waiting, because the same thing applies, the guy could sit there for a half an hour waiting for this truck to get loaded up.
Yeah, I agree.
It seems
but
like it's so far out that you could plan it, that you could get this thing squared away for $750.
I hear your point. I just don't know if it's our role to micromanage the
Yeah.
department head. That
Well,
to
I
battle
think
it.
the 750 is cheap. I mean, for a buck and a half. I mean, that's not bad.
Doesn't
So.
even make sense.
Try it, try it, and see how it works,
Okay.
make, you know.
What else we got, buddy?
Make your decision.
Yeah, if he gets ahead of us, we'll just
So,
Yeah.
shut him down and.
do we need to vote on which?
I probably would, yeah.
Okay, so I would move that we accept the Albert Blackstone Jr. excavation bid for winter sand.
Second?
All in favor?
Okay, so moving along here, we got, so the road striping, painting was done from the Brunswick town line to the Pownell town line. So we've got a couple of emails on that, people are pretty happy about that.
Yep.
So we installed the orange reflective warning signs on the stop ahead and the stop signs along that corridor.
Did you take a look at that? We kind of talked about the stop ahead sign. If you're coming from the runaround pond towards Route 9, that stop ahead sign seems very close and virtually on top of that stop sign. Because by the time you see that, you're also seeing the stop sign versus having it be backed up a bit. Have you take a look at that?
Yeah, we're gonna go over that tomorrow, actually. I'm picking up the paint machine from Freeport, we're gonna go over that. There is a formula, I believe it's 450 feet if the speed limit's 45 and 350. There is a,
Yeah, I just know there's a lot. Most of the other ones coming from the other directions are much further away
yeah,
from the stop sign. But
I
Don't want too far back, they'll forget what time.
no,
to
I
get
know,
there.
but I mean, I guess I want it to be back. It seems like on that particular one that it's not back far enough to really be doing any good.
it's close up,
You
yeah.
know, but
Okay, I'll check that tomorrow when we do the stenciling, so,
is that are you doing the stop?
yeah.
That painting tomorrow or
Yeah.
this week or
Yeah,
whatever?
we're gonna go pick the machine up from Freeport. We're using their machine again, and it's been in the shops. They just got it rebuilt,
Great.
and so we'll be working on that tomorrow.
And are you doing that just at the Route 9 intersection, or are you doing that at all three intersections across?
Down through, yeah.
Okay, great.
Bruce said they finished staining the deck, I saw them. They-
Finished staining the deck, yeah, so it went like 10 years with no stain, so last year we started putting some on and just was gone.
Yeah.
So this year, we've got it, so I think we've saved it, so I think we got it good with this year. We really put it on good, so hopefully that's all set for a few years. Mill Pond Road Bridge, people stopped and said the bridge guardrail was falling over, so we went down and put some new timbers and bolts and fixed that. The shouldering for Cedar Pond and Cedar Pond and Stackpole, they still haven't done that yet. We went down and did the driveways, but they're still looking at October, so they've got half a month left. So.
Okay, we're running out of
Well-
October.
Well, the road painting was September. We got that done in October, so I'll get a call into them and I'll see what I hear back from them tomorrow on that. And trucks look like they're in good shape for winter operations.
How about plow drivers? Are you good? You fully staffed for plow drivers?
No, but we'll work on getting a. I'll end up plowing again probably this year. But no. Well, I've got some like last year. They come in the on-call drivers. Will start coming in now that the construction people are laying off, and so I've got some feelers out there. And
Okay.
if not, I'll be in the plow truck. So
Kevin will help you. Yeah, you don't want me driving a plow truck, I guarantee you.
so that's all I got. Unless you have any questions.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right. Oh, back up, Chief, we
Yeah.
skipped over agenda, but if you.
I wasn't here, but I was watching from home.
I didn't want to leave Ruth holding the bag. We kind of went over
See,
it.
someone does watch our channel.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Love to see the Nielsen rating.
In regard to some of the, I'm assuming what you want me to speak to is some of the recommendations I made on the job posting, or in regard
I think the
to-
only one we talked about was the distance.
Yeah.
She said there were she didn't mention any other recommendations, but that the candidate needs to live within 5 miles. And
Yeah.
we thought that was too restrictive, and that we wanted to leave it a bit more open than that, and a little bit, so that the board can weigh that among several other factors when we start interviewing candidates.
Yeah, well, I guess my thought process with it was that we require our members, our volunteer members, members of the department, not the per diem staffing, to be within 5 miles of the town's boundaries. In reading the job posting, one of the things you listed was that you wanted them visible in the community, actively participating. And I'm assuming you want them at least on major emergency responses and stuff. And with a 20-mile radius, at 20 miles, even if you're 60 miles an hour, is 20 minutes away. So it really isn't conducive to that
Yep.
piece of it.
And I
The
think-
two kind of conflict each other.
Yep, and it's just, again, and I think a lot of that, all that will be weighed when we interview candidates, but we didn't want to overly restrict it right up front and weed out candidates, so if
Yeah,
they.
but many of my recommendations were to kind of weed through, because one of the things you're gonna find is, if you pop that on me after, if you tell me 20 miles in there, don't tell me after, if I'm the applicant.
That's why we took the miles off it, and we said
Okay.
you need to be.
You did say 20 miles before.
It did, yeah, so but we didn't go back to that, we left it as
Yeah.
like
That-
some
that I'm good
reasonable
with,
proximity or something like that.
That I'm good
so-
with, but if you tell me 20 miles up front.
No, we took the miles thing right off.
Because the other side of it is that, some of my recommendations were based on, well, hey, if you ask for this, it doesn't exclude me from applying even if I'm here, and you'll still get those applicants that will put in for the position.
Yeah.
Hoping that, well, maybe this will work out so it's okay.
Yep.
So most of my stuff was focused on, distance, the future of the department. Some of the expectations are actually really still in my job description, and some of the things we should be looking towards. So I'm assuming you're hoping you'll get somebody that's gonna do the job for 5 or 10 years. And if that in fact is the case, then some of those things definitely should be expectations, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing, the other things that Chief had put in there was, within 1 year of employment, they should be AVOC or EVOC certified, which means they can drive the trucks.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, if your expectations are gonna be that they're gonna drive, just to actually get them lined up for a class, you could wait six months to a year just to get them to line up with a class. So if they're supposed to be, per se, the driver / EMS provider daytime, along with the per diem staff and stuff, you definitely want them. Preference would be that they come in with that, because, otherwise, we can't do the driver training program or put them behind the wheel until they have that. Well,
Yep.
I shouldn't say we.
Yeah. Well, you're a citizen of the town, so it's gonna be your chief too, right? So.
Yeah, I can't put any of my members behind the wheel, and in the EVOC, it's very confusing, because the Department of Labor accepts CDL, Maine EMS won't accept CDL, so everything I do has to be either EVOC or AVOC.
Okay. That sounds reasonable to me, anyway.
And then
Yeah.
the other one was the fire officer certification, but that makes sense too.
Yeah.
What's that?
Fire officer certification, that was the other one.
Yeah, I know in my job descriptions it mentions Maine Fire Chief's Chief Officer certification, but I would recommend that even if they don't have it coming in, you establish expectations that they're gonna get at least their fire officer certification. We actually have probably somewhere in the vicinity of 6 or 7 members that have fire officer certification. I think they're gonna struggle if they're coming in from the outside and they don't come with close to the same credentials as many of the, or some of the senior members have.
Yep. Okay. Did you?
And then the Lisbon.
The RFP, Lisbon?
Yeah.
I gotta, this is really just an FYI, because I don't want you to hear it in conversation, but I got Lisbon is, I am pretty sure in the somewhat in the same boat that we were last year, Lisbon EMS, and they're private, they're not fully municipal funded. I think they do receive some support, at least in the fact that they get free dispatching from the town of Lisbon, but Lisbon Emergency is a private ambulance service, maybe with some subsidies from the town, but they can no longer make ends meet is what they've taken to the town of Lisbon. So I actually attended one meeting over there. They requested I attend, where we do mutual aid with them and stuff. But it sounds like a very similar situation to what we were in, is they can't get the staffing. In order to get the staffing, they need to pay for it. Because of the number of transports, they don't generate enough revenues to cover the staffing costs and all the expenses and overhead. So they went to the town of Lisbon looking for subsidization for the staffing costs. In the meeting, they talked much about many of the items like we talked about. You know, do we look at doing away with it? Do we put it out for contract? Do we, per diem staffing, do we fund the per diem staffing? Do we look at doing some full-time staffing and fund it? So they pretty much did the same thing we did. So I've received an RFP, kind of blew me away if we received the RFP, but for contracted ambulance.
For us to provide contract for them?
And that's not my suggestion, that we should even attempt to do that, because the capital costs and everything, and the bottom line is we're in the boat we are, because if we want this service, we need to subsidize it. They're in the boat they are, because if they want that service, they need to subsidize
Right.
it. So that in itself says it's not cost effective for us to give them a RFP, a contract proposal. But I wanted to make sure I told you, because I don't think we should give them anything. If you tell me we should, then I'll put it together. But I do not think we should give them anything. I don't think that's the route they want to go. I think this is their research, to lay the foundation, saying, well, no, here's what we've found, here's what our options are, what do we want for a level of service, and what are we willing to pay for that level of service? Which is really the question that we faced a year ago, and I'm sure we'll face it again
Well, still
this
facing,
year.
really, right? I mean, 'cause
What's that?
we're still facing, because I know last
Yeah,
year the per
I'm sure
diem
we'll
was
face
kind
it
of a
again.
stopgap measure for a year.
I'm sure we'll face it again at this town meeting.
Yeah.
Is what level do we want?
What are the-
What do
yeah.
we want for service, and has it been effective? And that's why we've kept it all separate. But the one thing that I did want to throw it out, the reason I wanted to throw it out is, one, I wanted to make you aware so that you guys didn't get blindsided. But two, the other side of it is you know, and I'm just going to let them know over there that no, it's not cost effective
Yeah,
for
well,
you. It's not cost effective for us. But the other opportunity it does propose, which I don't think would work, merely because it is not just Lisbon, it is Lisbon and Bowden. If it was just the town of Lisbon, some type of cost-sharing opportunity might work, but where it's Lisbon and Bowden, we're talking too large of a
That's a big
stretched out
area.
geographical area, so I think they'd be better off at looking at their thing, perhaps providing us mutual aid, then providing them mutual aid, just like we have in the past. And but I wanted to make sure you were aware of it.
Yeah,
because
thank
it's
you.
an
Yeah, I
opportunity,
think
and
I think your instincts are
don't
right
think-
on.
I don't think it's an opportunity we should be jumping at. And I don't really think it's an opportunity they want us to jump
Right,
at.
they're
I
just
really think
doing
they-
their due diligence.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay,
That was it.
great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Can I be added to the agenda? I know it's late, but I was at a different meeting. I just got some information that
Regarding,
I'm part of the Historical Society.
is it urgent that we discuss it tonight?
Sounds like it to me from what I heard over there. About the Methodist Church.
We don't have anything about the Methodist Church on our agenda.
Well, I guess, do I need to? say
Sure,
that?
come on.
Well, I'm Paula Erdman Purdy, head of the
Yeah.
Historical Society, as you know, and it just found out at our meeting that the town has decided they're gonna sell the Methodist Church.
No.
No.
Oh, we got, so somebody maybe, we did inquire, and remember, as a result of when we walked the site.
Right.
That, like, we inquired with our lawyer, like, well, what if the town wanted to sell it, like, are there any constraints on us, or whatever, and basically we just got an opinion from the town lawyer that there are no, we could sell the building for $1 to you tomorrow if we wanted to. Does the town have to approve the sale, or is it just the selectmen?
Yeah, because
But
in
there's
the
no-
conversation you and I had over at when I said, well, give us some time and
Yeah,
tell
yeah,
me.
yeah.
But I was in there today and they said,
No.
oh, no, the
No,
town
no,
has
no, no,
already
no.
decided to sell it.
No.
And two
All-
people have been told that.
Well, they're mistaken, and they
Okay,
misheard
that's
something.
good to hear.
We did get
That's
a
how
legal
gossip
opinion on like, well, what constraints are we under, and what would the process have to be, and but it's.
Okay,
No,
so.
there is no-
So I had heard that you went over with Chris Claus and he's gonna take care of selling it for you, Maine Preservation?
I did have a conversation with Christopher Claus.
Okay.
And we talked about many things, including things that we needed to do to the Union Church. And we did discuss the Methodist Church, because I had some of the same questions that we had for the lawyer, for Chris Claus. He said that if we decided at some point to sell it, he could try and sell it with stipulations that the new owner would renovate it. And he would be more than willing to do that for the town if we ever decided that we wanted to sell it. There was no discussion of
I
selling.
assure
I'm
you.
glad I left that meeting and came right here.
I am.
because
I am too.
Rumors would have been all over town very quickly.
I assure
that
you, it's-
You guys are selling the.
That was probably that other fake Facebook channel that's connected to them that ain't
You know
ours.
about all that fake news.
There's a lot of fake
Okay.
news on there.
I think, you
That
know.
makes me feel a lot better.
I don't think I can't imagine a scenario where we would even entertain selling it to anybody without going to you guys first.
Yeah.
Well, that was part of it, is like, I really felt like, why it wasn't the Historical Society in any of this loop, but because.
There is no
Because there's no logo.
No.
You gotta tell them people, stop looking at that fake Facebook
So-
channel.
If there's any of that, if you could, you have
Yeah.
my email address and
If we
just
get to that point,
email
yeah.
me what you're thinking and, how, because, on my agenda was, okay, what do we gotta do to secure these buildings for the winter?
So
And I have the list from Chris Claus on what
Yep.
we need to do, so,
I
but I was like.
don't foresee, I guess, from our discussions, and you guys jump in if I'm remembering things not completely accurately, but I think our position right now on the Old Town Hall is that status quo for the foreseeable future. We don't really anticipate,
Yeah, I'm supposed to
I've got a
have,
list of things that Chris Claus, I asked him, give me a priority, and there are some things that we should probably deal with.
Yeah, so we need to maybe look at that and then maybe go to the town with like, is this something you want to invest money in?
Well, the Historical Society has some money in the town coffers
Yep.
for that.
Yep.
So, but I need, and I won't take your time now.
So
Linda
I guess
Litchfield and I could come-
if you have a plan of how you want to spend, of what you think needs to be done and how you want to spend that money, then we'll get you on the agenda here to talk about it
Right,
and more.
okay. Well,
I had a long conversation with Christopher Claus, and I had been waiting to hear from him again, to really have a conversation with you guys. One of the things that I asked him was who would come out and do estimates on the work that needs to be done, and he does that. At the time that I talked to him, he was really busy. He said sometime in October, so I probably need to call him back and see
He's done all that. We have that. We paid $300 for all that information.
for a list of what needs to be done, but not the estimates that go along with the dollars.
Well, he gave, so we paid for the site evaluation that he did
Right.
on the churches.
Right.
He then prioritized it for me just in
Right.
August. He then gave me a list of contractors and
Right.
foundation people that we need to come out to get the 3 estimates, so you guys can choose, I guess, who does the work. I don't think he actually would come out and do. Ben Love apparently had a structural engineer there, but then he left the different organizations he was part of, so we don't have that information, but as I understand it, we have to get like some foundation structural guy, engineer type people
Yeah.
to tell us, you know, what has to happen in terms of the foundation, which is, I think, where we start. But I do have that list, which I think
Yeah.
you all have too.
Yeah, we
because-
do.
We do.
We have all that.
But I don't, yeah.
So I was gonna get, like, in the next couple of I don't know our meetings are often the same time as yours, but anyway, I'm gonna get on your agenda so that
So, yeah,
can talk this
coordinate with Ruth on
Okay.
the, you know, okay, what exactly do we need to do as far, and who do we call? And then Ruth will, when it's ready to come to the board for some sort of consideration, she'll get it on the
Okay,
agenda.
okay.
And as far as the Methodist Church, I think, I don't know if the letter from our town attorney answered the question of, does the board have the ability or the right to sell the property without a vote at town meeting? Or
My
would that-
understanding is that it does,
I thought so too.
because we have a warrant article on the warrant every year that allows the board to do with the real estate
Okay.
what it deems.
Town real estate, okay. So on the United Methodist Church, I guess, at some point, we'd probably need to figure out, you know, when and under what conditions you would want to
Right.
take possession of that building.
And I guess I'd like to find out what it costs the town currently to, I mean, the only cost of the town is insurance on the building, right?
I don't know, I would defer to Ruth on.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
front.
And that's,
No.
probably don't get any
And
tax.
we mow it, but I can't imagine.
No, he
that-
doesn't mow it.
You don't mow
It's
them?
been mowed by,
We don't do the one, the Methodist, no.
Oh, we don't? Okay.
he should be doing it, but it's been done by Lois, that's what she said, Chesley has done it for the last 20 years since she's lived in the house next door.
Oh,
Yeah, well, I thought we talked after the site walk, though, that Public Works would, because I think at the time you weren't aware that the town actually owned that.
Right.
And that,
Right, well,
and now that we do, that it should be on the schedule, and there was also talk of your crew going in
Clearance.
and trimming some branches back and stuff.
Clearing some of the trees that
trees
are
that fell over.
falling on the building,
Yeah.
yeah.
We went and got some that were on the front porch, but we still haven't got to the ones on the roof.
Okay, all right.
If you, I can put it on the list, I'll let Chloe's not doing it.
Yeah, I mean, because it's a town property, and so,
So's the other
yeah,
one.
we gotta
They're-
do around the
they're-
Union Church too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he
Both.
does the Union Church,
He-
No,
he
mow it,
mows
but-
it, but he doesn't,
right?
But there's trees hanging on it.
yeah, you gotta
And,
cut
and
it
we
back.
have permission because Candy Sipkis owns the property behind it and she doesn't have a problem with cutting the trees that are on her property that are hanging over.
well, if it's hanging over our property, we don't need permission anyway. I understand how trees go, but.
Right.
So,
No.
but anyway, but it's good that we have that. so.
Okay, and I'm glad we cleared this up because, yeah,
Yeah, we're, don't worry,
The town does have a new Facebook channel,
I saw
a
that.
real one.
I have a
That
cousin,
other one,
actually,
don't get on it.
well, no, I'm on that one and that's.
Well, that's up to you, but I can tell you right now, it's mostly smut and untrue.
So-
I have a cousin in Missouri who actually was very impressed with the website. But I also want to give you this. So this is, we've cleaning out over there and we found these. And this is from the 1989 bicentennial report.
Oh, goodness.
It's got a very short history of Durham in here, and I know that, I'm not sure you guys are really real up, I know you haven't read the Stackpole book, so this is a much shorter version to read.
Thank you.
So you know about the history of Durham, talks about why Durham is what it is, and why it needs to remain the same.
Thank you very much.
And the importance of those buildings.
Do you want me to
And
give them
there's-
to the
and
two
keep
selectmen?
them for
Yeah.
yourself, and please ask them to read it. I'm gonna quiz them when I come next time.
Tell me what a stackpole is?
It's a
The Stackpole.
history book.
Stackpole history book, right there.
What's a stackpole?
Stackpole is the man who wrote it. And
Oh, that's
the
it.
Stackpole
Oh, that's
Road.
his name?
Ah,
His name
I didn't know he
back
lived up there.
He's a very famous, I don't know that he lived there either.
Ah,
I'm not sure where he lived, but he wrote it in 1878 or so, is the history of Durham was written then.
I've seen a stackpole road in another town, and I wonder, what is a stackpole? I thought it might be an object or something,
No.
use to stack logs, or I don't.
But it's a very short read, it's got lots of nice pictures in it, and
Thank you very much.
and when I find the 1976 one that they wrote, I'll get you a copy of those too.
Okay.
So, anyway, little,
Thank you.
little nighttime.
Thank you very
bedtime
much.
ready.
All right.
Thanks,
All
and I'll be
right.
in touch.
Yeah, and let your crew know that we're not selling anything. Unless it's
But
to you guys right now.
will-
but-
You will keep the Historical Society, you have my email, right?
Oh,
I think
absolutely.
we have.
Yeah.
Keep
Yeah, I
it
had a
in
long
loop,
conversation with
because
Linda
I
the other
really
day.
wish- Not with me,
But not with you, no, with Linda, yeah.
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 Linda was the one who said that,
Yeah,
It's
no,
gonna
we
be
did talk
sold.
about,
okay,
Look
well,
at that lady.
that's how
Conversation,
things
but-
happen.
yeah.
She was
Yeah.
talking about, what do you
And
want
it's
about?
one of those cabinets.
That lady who wanted to.
Oh,
Yeah.
candy.
No, huh?
That's
Yeah.
probably what you
Oh,
want to
well.
play
All
about.
right,
Might be.
thank you.
All right,
Sorry to
thank
interrupt.
you.
All right.
Thanks.
Okay, so, upcoming meetings, regular selectmen
I
meeting.
think you skipped out of town, didn't you?
Oh, I did. Sorry. And do you actually have something tonight? Because usually,
Sorry, hold on.
usually you say, I already said all my stuff.
No, I have two things. The first thing is I just wanted to let you guys know that Congregational Church has donated $600 to our heating fund. So
Wow.
they do that lunch, you know, and they collect the money at the lunch, and then every once in a while they donate it somewhere, and so they donated 600 to our heating fund.
Great.
And then the other thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is our copier is, okay. And, and I have an opportunity to, change over our lease. So we leased that copier from Canon. And what they want me to, the lease ends next October. And what they want me to do is they want me to, change the lease for another 5 years, basically, and get a new copier. And it basically comes out to the same price that we're paying now. It's a little more per month, but the copies are a lot less expensive. And we would be able to punch holes and staple, all done with the copier. So we'd be able to, yeah, actually do that kind of stuff.
So it corrugates and everything.
Yeah,
Bunch of holes.
punch holes, yeah.
Real
Punches holes, yeah, real holes in the thing. So, I would like permission to go ahead with this.
So moved.
Second that.
All in favor?
Okay.
So when do we get the new one?
I don't know, I'm gonna have to call.
Tomorrow.
No, not tomorrow. Tomorrow they're putting the server in. We'll start with one thing at a time here.
Pick that up along with the new
Yeah,
code
pick the
officer.
code officer up and grab the copy machine on the way back.
Okay, now I'm finished, thank you.
Okay. All right, upcoming meetings, actually, we have how come we don't have oh, there it is. We have an abbreviated selectmen's meeting on October 31st, where we're essentially just signing the warrant. There won't be any business on the agenda.
We're scared because there's too many goblins.
That's right, there's too many goblins and ghouls running around, so we're gonna,
Do you need to set up the phones and stuff?
No,
Okay.
no. That's at 4 PM, but it is a meeting of the selectmen, so we have to, it's public, provide public notice, but if that's the meeting that people choose to attend, they're gonna be really disappointed. Then our regular meetings, which I would encourage you to hold out for, November 14th at 6:30 PM and Tuesday, November 28th, also at 6:30 PM, here at the town hall. And I'll throw in here that the Comprehensive Plan Committee is meeting on October 25th at 6:30. It's a Wednesday, not our normal night. We snuck in an extra meeting to get some extra work done. We're meeting that night, so.
Meet here.
Here, yep. Okay, anything else? Okay, then I move we go into executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA 4056